Hi, this is Tolec for the Andromeda Council. Today is Sunday, May 6th, 2018. And my guest today is Mark Kimmel. I'm honored to have Mark here with me. More than 20 plus years ago, Mark left a successful business career, working for major corporations, then founded and ran three of the most well-respected Colorado venture capital funds. He then decided to pursue his passion for writing and teaching about a larger cosmic picture. He spoke at international forums, including my Transformational Shift Events Conference in October of 2016, where he was very well received. He's been a guest on radio and television shows, and has conducted workshops based on his unique insights into the transformation of Earth and her humans. Mark's newest book is Cosmic Paradigm. His earlier books include Trillion, Decimal, One, Birthing a New Civilization, Transformation, Chrysalis, and Icebreakers. These contain messages from non-human sources such as the Andromedans and Celestials. Mark, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be able to connect with you again.
Tolec, it's a great pleasure to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and to speak with your audience. This is going to be a lot of fun today.
Yeah, you've certainly been really busy. Your busyness included a move and a focus on your most recent book, Cosmic Paradigm. But before we dive into the book, for those people who aren't familiar with you, would you please provide them with a brief synopsis of how you came to have your first contact with people from the Andromeda Galaxy?
Yes. Oh, this is a fun one. I had left the business world, in the world of venture capital, and something said to me, enough. You've had enough, Mark. And so I resigned from all my boards of directors. I stopped reading business plans, and I just basically shut everything down. And I went back to school to get a master's degree in psychology. I figured, well, I'm going to figure this thing out. I was a year into that master's degree and sitting doing an academic paper, and all of a sudden, my first book started to spill out of the computer. And I thought, oh, this must be something like science fiction. Well, I had never intended to write a book, and it was not part of my long-term plan. And so it took quite a while. I went through several editors. It took me about 5 years. But what I realized along the way is that I was getting a lot of help writing this book. And so what's going on here? And then it slowly began to become very clear that I was getting help from non-physical sources. I mean, there wasn't anybody showing up and sitting down next to me to help do this.
Okay.
And then in 2008, I recall very clearly, it was after my third book, and I was standing in my home in Fort Collins, and all of a sudden, this very calm voice said, we have some messages. We want you to take those and put it on your website. And I said, what? You want me to? You think I'm crazy? I'm not going to do that. And they kept up, and 2 or 3 weeks later, I was posting my first message that came through from Justine, who was one of the Andromedans. And Justine was at that point in time, and still is, aboard the starship Athabantian, which is in Earth orbit, if you will. Sits out there. It's a very high dimension, so you can't see it with our light or instruments, anything like that. It doesn't show up.
Sure.
Justine is a higher dimension individual. And he started talking to me, and then pretty soon another person came in. That was Morini. And then Brenton came in. And then Adriel came in. So I have a whole cast of characters. And on my website, Cosmic Paradigm, there's 200 postings of all these messages that came in from the Andromedans. And Now, in the early days, I didn't know it was Andromeda. I mean, it took me a while to figure that out because I was, new to this whole thing. And I thought it was, oh, this is some planet, somewhere else. But no, it was Andromeda. And I have since learned that Andromeda is unique as a galaxy compared to the Milky Way in that Andromeda functions at 15th dimension, which is something that, quite frankly, I have not been able to figure out. But that's okay because of who I am. They are able to go and communicate with me and drop down their energy and speak with me directly. So, long answer to a short question.
Yeah, and the 15th dimension, that's up there on the dimensional measurement scale, if you will. I mean, I'm aware of some contact that I've gotten from people from the Arcturus star system, but it's they're really high level intelligences, and they vibrate at such a high frequency. It takes some work. It takes some work to be able to assimilate, at least with the Arcturians, because they're so focused on the frequency of love, the vibration of love, that I've got to get my mind out of the way in order to bring it into who I am and how I function on this planet. Just because we're people that thrive off of using our minds to figure things out.
I have spoken with some of the very high energies from Arcturus, and they're at 12th dimension.
Right.
Which is interesting, as are some of the Pleiadians and some of the Sirians. They all sit there at 12th dimension, which is, way above where we are. We're sitting here at 3rd, 4th, maybe some 5th if we're really lucky. And it's a leap to get up there. But what has happened to me is that I now know, and I have memory of having had a whole bunch of lifetimes in Andromeda. I was told that I've been in Andromeda right before I came here, and I was in various planets in the Andromeda galaxy.
Yes.
For 2,792 years.
You old dog, you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey, I'll tell you, I mean, those are different lifetimes. And Tolec, you've had, and I've had also, we've had 1,000 lifetimes. And we're going to have another 1,000 going forward,
Yeah. Yeah, it's my understanding from my own people. And they were teasing me. They're like, really? I said, really? They said, yeah, you've been coming to this planet for just over 75,000 years. Most people get to Earth, they've been here about 100,000 years, but we need to keep you back to give you some more training. I was like, oh, thanks, guys. But listen, this conversation is about you. And you mentioned, a number of our conversations, but you mentioned that this particular book, this new book, Cosmic Paradigm, is called Cosmic Paradigm. And for those that are uninitiated out there, the name of your website is cosmicparadigm.com. And after Trillion, Decimal One, Birthing a New Civilization, Chrysalis, Icebreakers, and others, why is this book titled Cosmic Paradigm?
Well, what might be more interesting is why did I name my website Cosmic Paradigm?
Oh, okay. All right.
Because little did I know, and this was 20 years ago when I put that website up, that I was eventually going to get to the place where I could go and say, yeah, I finally understand the cosmic paradigm. And so for me, to put that name up there was kind of amazing when I look back upon it, because now in this book, I finally have come to the point where I understand the fullness of the cosmic paradigm. Yeah. And it's huge. It's unbelievable.
May I ask a question? I hadn't planned on this, but it's come to my senses as long as we're on this particular path of conversation. If we look at these two words, cosmic, and we look at the second word, paradigm, paradigm is essentially a word that describes a model for something.
Yes.
Of course, cosmic is a reference to out in the cosmos, deep space. So the two words together are a model for cosmic deep space life. Would that be a correct partial assessment of why those two words are together? And then, of course, everything else behind it.
Yeah. At the beginning of the creation of time space,
okay,
which was billions of years ago, there was put in place a schematic, if you will. And they're very intent on using that word schematic as opposed to a blueprint.
Okay.
And schematic means a living way of being that Source put into play when Source determined that it wanted to go and create this universe. So paradigm says, okay, this is the way in which I want it to be. So a cosmic paradigm basically refers to this schematic, which is, hey, guys, this is the way this is going to be. Now, there's been a whole lot of things go on since that moment of, several billion years ago. And some of it has been very favorable, and some of it, quite frankly, has not been so much fun, because you and I know there are some anomalies in this whole scheme of things that move us away from 15th dimension or 12th dimension. 15th and 12th dimension, they're all based on love and light and unity. Well, there's a bunch of other critters out there, and we'll get into how that all happened, who decided they didn't want to play by that rule. They didn't want to play by the schematic. So now we have a small sector of the universe. It's not, Andromeda was never affected by this, the anomalies. But there's a bunch of the Milky Way that was affected. And we know there are some planets that, and there are beings that come to Earth from these, I call them the detrimentals as opposed to the beneficials.
Okay.
You and I would deal only with beneficials.
Right, me as well. Yeah.
I have had 2 or 3 experiences with the detrimentals, and I basically say, I'm putting out beneficial energy, go away. And that's the end of that. But yes, so the cosmic paradigm refers to the schematic that was put in place way at the beginning. And so then what Source did, it went and said, okay, I'm going to go and charge some of my agents, and I call them creator agents.
Right.
Go out and create galaxies and star systems and planets. And they're going to populate the galaxies with individual beings. Now, I haven't used the word physical yet, because in the initial stages, everything was semi-physical, or what you and I would call semi-physical. And my understanding of Andromeda is it still is a semi-physical galaxy. It's not physical like we understand here on Earth. Nothing close to that. We've got this 3rd dimension rigidness here.
Right.
Andromeda is, it's semi-physical. It's kind of gaseous and that type of thing. So that's 15th dimension. And as we just said, the higher dimension Pleiadians and Sirians and Arcturians, they're all 12th dimension, which again is not physical the way we know it.
True.
So then we look at, this is what I want to talk about primarily today, is we look at ancient Earth. When it was originally created, which happened several billion years ago, and that was before geologic time, before the records that we see in the rocks. The ancient Earth was a semi-physical gaseous globe. And it was about 10 times the size of what Earth is today. Because semi-physical, if you squeeze it down and squeeze it down and squeeze it down, then it becomes rigid and 3rd dimensional. So the ancient Earth, I call it the ancient Earth, was semi-physical. And it was a beautiful place. I mean, it's sitting there at 12th dimension. And it turns out that that 12th dimensional globe was the beacon that Source had said, okay, this is the way in which I want my planets to be created. So Earth became a beacon. This is this ancient Earth. Okay, a beacon for the schematic, for the entire Milky Way galaxy. And at that time, it was not orbiting the sun. All right, that came later.
Okay.
It was brought into orbit around the sun after, well, we'll talk about what happened then. So there was Earth's golden era that existed, long before geological records, long before any of that. And it's all semi-physical. And the original Atlantis and Lemuria were there at that time. The original Atlantis and Lemuria. They existed before the geological records. And they were semi-physical, the beings in Atlantis and Lemuria. And they existed for several 100,000 years together, one on one side of this globe and the other one on the other side of the globe. And again, these are semi-physical beings. They're 12th dimensional beings.
Yeah, and 12D is still high up on the dimensional or density chart. And maybe, again, for people that are not quite familiar with your work or some of these references, can you please define what you mean when you say semi-physical? What are the properties of someone that's a semi-physical being? Their composition.
The word that comes to mind is fluid. They no longer have a rigid body. And that happens at 7th dimension. You get into a semi-physical. And then as you progress up towards 12th dimension, you become less and less dense. You don't have density. And and you don't have height and width and length because everything is very fluid. So you can't really talk about, measurements, how high or how broad or anything like that. It's constantly moving. All right.
Okay. All right.
Think of it as kind of just gaseous, fluid, that type of thing. So that's what semi-physical means to me.
Okay.
And so the original Atlantis and Lemuria, they were semi-physical, and they had semi-physical beings populating them. And this is called Earth's Golden Era, and it went on for a long time. Then what happened is that some of the beings in Atlantis began to experiment and saying, well, let's go and see if we can take this into a denser and denser physicality. Let's see what would happen if we try to force it down into 9th dimension. And okay, it's still kind of working there. They got it down into 7th dimension. All of a sudden, things started to fall apart. And then after 7th dimension, the Lemurians were no longer able to hold their civilization. And so it disappeared. And the Atlanteans fought for a long time trying to hold on to what they had, and it disappeared. And in the process of that, Earth almost self-destructed. Now, keep in mind, this was the beacon for the whole Milky Way galaxy. And it went through near self-destruction.
Now, just out of curiosity, when we think about the location of current day Earth,
yes,
and the Milky Way galaxy essentially looks like a pinwheel, we're sitting in a solar system somewhere, and if you use a clock as a reference, an original analog clock, Earth and its solar system would sit somewhere around 7 o'clock.
Yes, from our perspective, yes.
Yes.
And way out on a limb.
Thank you. Yeah, that was going to be my point. It's where was this much higher dimensional Earth? Where was its location?
Very near the center of the Milky Way galaxy.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That makes sense, though. When you think about it, if it's going to be a living schema of what future planets would be,
Yeah,
it would most likely be closest in physicality, wrong word, but closest to source
exactly.
and the godlet creators.
Well, it's close to the
Yeah,
so-called black hole, okay,
right.
which is scientific explanation of what's in the center of the galaxy, which is kind of a misnomer, and that's a whole other conversation.
Sure.
Anyway, so there was with what my non-physical friends, the archangels, if you will, the ones that saw all this happen, they've been around here for a lot longer than you and me. They call it the Great Catastrophe, because here's this beacon of the entire Milky Way galaxy, and it's self-destructing. So they put it into a place of suspended animation, trying to figure out, all right, what do we do next?
Yeah.
So they decided, okay, and this took, now we're talking, we're talking a long, long time here, long time. We're talking millions of years. And then they decided, okay, we're going to go and resurrect this thing. And what we'll do is we'll figure out a way to get it back to 12th dimension. And we're going to go and put individual humans back on Earth, and we'll let them work it back up to 12th dimension. And we're going to start with third dimension. And so we'll bring this down to third dimension, which is like a big rock. And we'll take this rock and we'll stick it out here, kind of at the edge of the galaxy, and we'll put it in this solar system with this sun, and we'll see how that works. And so that happened 500 million years ago.
By putting it far out on the, if you will, the far frontier of the Milky Way galaxy.
Sure they could pull this off.
Right. So yeah. So I'm trying to make a little bit of a leap here in sending it so far out on the far frontier of the Milky Way galaxy. Would that, if you will, distance allow it? This is hard to do when we don't always have the words. Would that distance allow it more time to more slowly evolve into a new evolutionary blueprint, a new higher dimensional way of thriving?
Yes, without the microscope that people would be putting on it. I think that's the reason they did it.
Right. It's kind of like, do you work in corporate or out in a field office? It's a lot easier in the field office.
Yeah.
Same
so
idea.
the first life forms, which geologists would call the Cambrian Era, which is about 500 million years ago. That's when the first life forms began to appear on Earth. And then about 500,000 years ago is when the first humans were introduced. 500,000 years ago.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind that Andromeda, has been clicking along, for a few billion years on its own. So all of our friends from Andromeda are living in a galaxy that is, billions of years old and quite evolved.
Right.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah. And certainly in comparison to what's going on here at that time, they were already way ahead.
Yeah, and they never had to go through this whole evolution thing, if you will, beginning with rock solid third dimension. They've never been anywhere other than 15th dimension. Now, one of the interesting things that happened when primitive humanity was introduced 500,000 years ago is that there was some residual energy left over from Atlantis called the energy of fear. And it was still hanging around the planet. And so we get that energy of fear biologically into human beings.
Okay.
Now, despite all of that, they put us here, and the idea was for us to go and go through third dimension and become fourth dimension and that type of thing, and for us to resurrect Earth and get it back to 12th dimension. So from my perspective, that's the reason we're here. which is something that I have had to really come to grips with. But that's the reason you and I are here, is we're supposed to be helping this planet resurrect itself. And yeah, do we have the power to do that? Sure we do. We're very powerful. We don't realize it, but we're very powerful. Collectively, we can do this. Now, we also know there's been some extraterrestrial influences, positive and negative, energetic, biological, physical, and that started about 400,000 years ago when the first beings from, the Draconians and all that crowd started coming.
Right.
And they influenced, the human beings. But you also had the energetic influences from Atlantis and Lemuria still hanging around. So now we get, now we get up to present day. And the present day is we're set on a path to help resurrect Earth. You and I came here with that idea. And there's a lot of other people that came here knowing that that's what they were going to be doing. And those are the wayshowers and the light workers and all of those. They may not know exactly that that's what they're doing, but that's basically, you talk about all the talk about ascension and raising consciousness and all that type of thing.
Right.
It's all been set on the path of resurrecting this planet back to 12th dimension. So, next step. What would it be like if everyone woke up one day and saw their existence in a new way? You wake up and you believe, hey, this is the way things always have been. And they look around and they see that everybody else also believes this is the way it's always been. And there's not so much fear. There's not so much separation. There's not so much war and anger and all that kind of stuff. And everybody's practicing the same way. Well, if we are simply energy that has been slowed down into this dense body, and you and I know about energies, they're very powerful. And we know there's energies coming from the galaxy. Everybody's talking about that right now that are impacting everything and everyone on Earth. And then there's all the energies from our star brothers and sisters, like the Andromedans. They've been here for, tens of 50 years at least, and projecting their energies. And then all the energies from the wayshowers and the light workers that came here with the idea that they were going to help impact. I remember being on Andromeda. I remember that. That's new. I remember making the decision over there at Andromeda, I'm going to go to Earth. And everybody said, are you crazy?
What are you nuts?
What do you want to go to that place for?
Right. They're crazy down there.
And I said, well, I was there at the time of Atlantis and Lemuria. It was a pretty nifty place. And I said, okay, I'm going to go back and help out. And it turns out there's a lot of us, including you, my friend, who were here at the time of Atlantis and Lemuria. And we've come back. And we're here helping out.
That certainly, what you're talking about certainly describes, at least in this moment, it certainly describes the probable reality that each of us is truly living a multidimensional life. Now, I'm not talking about these bodies that we have, but the soul fractals that animate these bodies. That there's a fractal here on Earth, and there's one in Andromeda, there's one potentially in the Pleiades, there's one in Sirius A, and a lot of other places, all living simultaneous lives, which means that time as we know it in this dimension on this planet doesn't exist.
Not once you get away from Earth, it doesn't.
Right.
And that's why, we can say, well, I was here 500,000 years ago. I was here a billion years ago. Because time is different out there. And I know that I haven't been here on Earth for several thousand years. I know I haven't been. Now, I don't have a real good memory of my time in Andromeda, simply because it's such a much higher frequency existence. To me, it's just kind of gaseous, and there's nothing solid I can get my hands on, or my feet, or whatever.
Right.
But I know I was there, and I specifically remember making that decision. Okay, it's time for me to go over there and see what I can do. So anyway, that's my story.
All right. So bringing all of these topics to bear on those two words, cosmic paradigm, and a website that's been Cosmic Paradigm, and all of these books, and now this book is Cosmic Paradigm. What are some of the more important concepts, maybe concepts that are relevant for right in this moment, that are in the book Cosmic Paradigm that you'd like to address that people may have not heard you discuss publicly before?
Well, the things we've just talked about, which is the real reason for the two of us, plus all of your listeners,
okay,
understand why they're here. That's a huge, huge thing, and that's in the book. I talk about my early life, which I had no idea that all this was going on until 1987, and I got a wake-up call at that time, and it was like, wake up! You came here for a reason. It's time to wake up and get with it. And it was at that point in time that my business partners said, Mark, you've turned into a flake. What's going on? So they threw me out.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I don't care. I kind of like who I am. And,
right.
I like myself better than the way I used to be, so I'm going to go this direction. And so that's in the book, and all of my experiences. And then I've had some amazing experiences. And these are experiences that tell me what I'm getting is not just my imagination. I've had some physical contact, and that's in the book, and I'm not going to spoil the story by going into all the details.
Right. No, of course not.
Yeah, but I've had some physical contacts. I had a very memorable one where you are at this point in time, geographically, and that's in the book, okay? And it's like, I know for sure, these are very powerful entities that I'm dealing with. They can do things that I have no idea how they do this, but I know for sure that what I'm talking about is the real McCoy. So
there must be something, and if you've gathered a number of people who work in this area of interest together, there must be something about this unique state of Arizona vibrationally that promulgates all of the sightings and contacts and ships that have been seen year after year after year. I don't know.
You notice it doesn't happen down in Phoenix.
No. No.
Well, I mean, there was the Phoenix Lights, okay.
Right.
But by and large, it happens in the more rural places. And, I live out in California. It's not happening here. There's too many people. And I think what it is that the energies that each of us collectively are putting together are very disconcerting. And they don't want to mess with those. They don't want to become embroiled in those energies. And so I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, when you say they, you're talking about any of the people in the higher dimensions that are beneficials?
Yeah. And they have told me, we're not coming down here as a higher dimension being, because to do that, we would have to lower our consciousness so far to get down there with you that we're not sure we can get back up.
Yeah.
So why would we do that? And then there's the detrimentals, and they are not higher consciousness beings at all. And a lot of them are in physical form.
Right.
And the way they're in physical form is they're not higher consciousness. So they don't need to play around with this consciousness stuff. They're playing with the standard third dimensional, wars and fear and anger
Right.
and all that kind of stuff.
And their agenda is self-serving. They want to perpetuate their life form as it is for as long as they can. It's all about power, control, manipulation.
Yeah. And I guess, looking at the bigger picture, if you were in their shoes, you'd probably do the same thing. Okay? Simply because that's all they know. All they know is fear and domination. Unfortunately, that's who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. I don't want anything to do with them. And so I have chosen not to go and play that game at all. And I respect those that are going and challenging them, but that's not my path. My path is to go and talk about what I'm talking about. And I'm helping people find meaning for their lives. I tell them, where'd you come from?
Okay.
Who are you really? What are you really doing here? And where are you going?
Right. Why? Right. Why are you here? What is this earth life about for you? For you. Are any of you taking the time to ask those questions? I can tell you that from the different events I've held here in the state of Arizona, and actually around the globe, but specifically here in Arizona, whenever we have some smaller gatherings after the conference, and there are, say, 12 or 14 or 20 some odd of us, there are many times, because a lot of the attendees, quite frankly, probably 65 to 70% are women.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times there are tears of relief, of joy, and of recognition from these women that are attending, because they find this internal recognition that they are actually they feel like they're among family and friends, and that the conversations that you and I are having today are normal conversations among all of us. It's something that we're quite comfortable, and these topics are something quite comfortable they're talking about. And many times there are tears of joy and relief that are spilled because they cannot believe they've finally come to a place where they can have these conversations and be accepted as normal people, as healthy questioning normal people, wondering what they're doing here.
And that's what I'm doing with these free conference calls, okay?
Yeah.
I have people around the country that I'm connecting with on the telephone. It's not the same as being live, but they are so hungry to talk. They're just hungry to reach out and find someone of a like mind. It is wonderful. It's so gratifying for everybody involved. And we can talk and talk and talk. I have one group I talk to every week. We get together and talk every week, and we really find it's very uplifting. So I applaud you for doing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah. We've started to do it once a month now. We get together a bunch of people at a group that Joe Anthony and I have named Sedona Close Encounters, and we've created a poster that sort of, if you will, mimics or parallels the movie Close Encounters.
Yep.
But we have that experience every month that we all get together. There's like sometimes 27, 28, sometimes 45, 50. But when we come together, inclusive of the person that's speaking each month, there's always a get together after. And we sit and talk for hours.
Yeah.
Just because it's great to have that camaraderie, that feeling of friendship.
Maybe the next time I get to Arizona, I can come up to Sedona and join you. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, there are a few people here asking about you, and everybody will be very happy when you get here. I'm absolutely sure.
We will work that out.
Yeah. Yes, we will.
When I go to visit the kids in Arizona next time, I will.
Okay.
We can take an extra day and come up your direction.
Sure.
Love to do that.
What are some of the concepts within Cosmic Paradigm, especially that focus on, and this is probably where the greatest benefit is, that focus on people within the developed nations of this world? I think what we prototypically would call undeveloped nations, the places where there are more indigenous people, where life is still more agrarian and survivalist. Those people are far less messed up because they're more connected with the land and nature and energy of what we would call the creator. But so here we are, the people in the developed countries who are not happy, who are working their tails off, who are making less money today than they did before, whose religions are failing them. What are some of the concepts that you might want to address, at least a couple of them that are in Cosmic Paradigm, that can tell people that there's hope for them?
Well, I think that
in this period of change that we're in, this period of drastic change.
In Cosmic Paradigm, there's a big section in the book there that is all about raising your individual consciousness. And, I am convinced that we cannot extrapolate from where we are. We keep trying to do that. We keep trying to solve things using the tools we have right now. And I think it was Einstein that says you cannot solve problems using the tools that created the problems in the first place.
Right. Good point.
So we have to go and come to an understanding that we have to go and raise our individual consciousness. That's what it's all about. And some of those, like you and I, we have been given gifts that allow us to raise our individual consciousness fairly easily. People that haven't been given those gifts, they have to work at it. So I give them some indications as what they can do, how they can do it. I have to say that it's becoming easier because those of us like you and me are basically wayshores, if you will, and we're plowing the ground and making it easy for other people. But it all comes back, in my mind, to energy. We are energy beings. We're just energy that's got really slowed down. And so if everybody can understand that, then they can raise their individual energies, their individual consciousness. And once we get to some sort of a critical mass, and it's really not that much, then the 100th monkey principle comes into effect. And then what I talked about is that people will wake up one day and they will go and see, and everybody will see that things are different. They're different. And I don't know about you, but I have awakened several times in the last year or so saying, everything's different. Now what's going on? Everything's different. And it's because I have been successful at raising my individual energy. So to me, that's the whole reason for doing this. It's the whole way out of the wars and the anger and all the drugs and the domination and the drama, of everyday life here.
That's a valid point. It's certainly a way to see life differently. A lot of people, I think, incorrectly believe that as a practical examination of one concept. Some people have, I don't know, a real back problem, or they have a stomach ailment or something that's been bothering them. Most times, the physical manifestation of the problem is not the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem is something that energetically is messing with your feeling state, your emotional state. And as we've talked about, energy is real. And there's a very real outcome, either positive or negative, in terms of energy and people's emotions and their feelings that happen to the body that create physical effects. So, in fact, what I'm trying to say is people ought to go within and examine their lives and how they conduct themselves moment by moment, hour by hour basis, if they're going to make changes in their lives. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Does that make sense?
I'm totally in agreement with that. I've had some, and I put them in the book there, some very interesting experiences with energetic healing. And it's real. It's very real. You can heal the body energetically. And there are some wonderful energy workers out there that are doing that on a regular basis. So they're showing us, basically all that's doing is showing us, number one, that we are energy, and number two, that we can impact our physicality with energy.
Well said.
And if we can impact our individual bodies, then we sure as hell collectively can impact the political system, the monetary system, everything. And so that's what I'm working on. Right? Understand that.
There's a saying that I'll kind of paraphrase. I'm sure you've heard it before. It goes something like this. We keep thinking that we're humans trying to understand spiritual life. And again, I'm paraphrasing. When in fact, we are spiritual beings attempting to cope with human physicality. We'd be better served trying to understand who we are from a spiritual perspective and what drives us if we're going to succeed down here as humans. And again, I was paraphrasing it, but that's essentially it. And I remember the first time I read that and I went, wow, that's brilliant. Somebody actually put that into words.
Well, but this whole business of reincarnation is a big deal. And it is practiced everywhere in the cosmos. It's a fundamental that we have lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And once you understand that, then you see this body is a vehicle and it puts you in the driver's seat. So you're very correct. From a spiritual standpoint, we are spirits and these bodies are just vehicles. And, we can trade them in like used cars. Go get a new one.
Right.
And I was told recently, well, Mark, you have free will. You can decide when you want to go and trade your body in. Everybody has that. And some of that, I just posted something on the website about death. Basically, our souls are deciding when we are going to die. It's not our bodies deciding that. Our bodies get corrupted, they get physically challenged, but it's our soul that says, okay, I think I've had enough of this one. Bye. See you around.
I have a close friend, gentleman who I've known since, kindergarten, grammar school, high school. He then went to Navy. I went to university. We've been friends our whole lives. Just short of his 60th birthday, he passed on. Make a long story short, about 14 or 15 years ago, he was on a Navy carrier. You'll love this one. The two ships were docking. One was getting refueled. The ships bumped. He got thrown off of the second tier up onto the first deck, main level.
Yeah.
Banged his head on the way down, messed up his back. So to bring that story forward to current, about a year and a half ago, he was having some severe headaches. And quote unquote, the doctors found that he had cancer in his cancer cells and abnormal growths in his brain.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The headaches got worse. They did a biopsy, confirmed what they thought. They opened him up and did, of course, a radical surgery on his brain. And I knew at that moment that was going to be the end game for him. He didn't last but 4 months.
Right.
Now, I think the bigger picture here is I've always known this gentleman as someone to be very, very intelligent, very thoughtful, very quiet. More not of this earth than of this earth. He always had his face in his eyes, in his brain, in a book, reading, absorbing as much as he could. I'm not surprised that he left early. Of course, whenever doctors open up a human body and there's cancer, that process, promulgates the spread of those cancer cells. So it's like the death knell. But when I think about his life experiences, I'm not surprised they left early. And then he decided to leave early. He
Sure.
wasn't happy here in the first place. I can tell you decidedly that his vibration was not of Earth. It just never was.
I see so many people that are afraid of death. If they can once understand this whole concept of reincarnation, and that it happens over and over and over again, that they've had 1,000 lives at this point. Almost everybody on this planet that I know has had at least 1,000 lives, and it's going to continue. And so if they can get a hold of that, that takes the fear away from the death thing. Hard for people to get a hold of that. It really is.
That's a really good point. My own Andromeda Council of Contact people spoke with me at length during the course of my very rigorous week and a half of time travel experiences. And that was one of the themes that we talked about at length. He's like, you got to understand something. This is, I mean, it was the commander of the biosphere. He's like, we don't have lives like yours. We have not been organic for a long, long time. He said, I don't even have a reference for it. We don't die. I've created this physicality for you so that we can interact, but this physicality is made out of light and energy. But your people, our people, we don't die. We're higher dimensional beings. We're made of light. We're made of energy. We just choose to evolve. 5D, 6D, 7D. That's the norm across the universe.
Right.
And so
yeah.
that experience that he was having me go through was purposefully so they could better understand emotionally what happens with us whenever we see death or experience it. It's a concept they were having a really difficult time with, because for them it's not death. You're just walking up to your closet, you're opening the doors, there's like 15 or 16 suits, you just grab another suit and put it on.
I have been told that less than 0.1% of all the beings in the cosmos even know there's such a thing as third dimension. So that's 99.9% of the people out there, the individual entities, if you will. They don't know what third dimension is. They don't. It just doesn't, they're up there at 10th, 11th, 12th, 15th dimension, and that's the way it is out there. So we are the true anomaly here. And we have, there's a few other planets close by that share this third dimensional stuff with us.
Right.
And that makes life here very hard. But that's okay. That's what we came here for, to try to go and make it better for everybody.
That's an amazing concept when you think about it. So I don't know how many life forms are out there. So let's create a number that people can wrap their heads around. Now, I don't know if this number is right or wrong, but let's say that there's 1 million life forms out there. What you're saying is that 999,000 are higher dimensional life forms, and only 1% of that is physical and organic.
Yes. Or that know about it. It's the 0.1% that even know there is such a thing. Not that they are that.
Okay.
And we're looking at, trillions of life forms. Trillions. And there's only 0.1% that even know there is such a thing as third dimension. It just doesn't resonate. That's how Atlantis got into trouble. They were trying to go, they were higher dimension beings, and they were trying to force things into a more rigid existence. And it didn't work. It all backfired. It fell apart. They destroyed themselves.
Right. My understanding is they had if you will, a drive and a passion for technology to create this kind of life that they wanted. And they ended up destroying themselves in the process.
Exactly. They had technology and they misused it. Yeah. I mean, they did it they did it innocently enough because they thought, gee, this is great. Let's try this, you know? Well, no, it didn't work that way.
Yeah.
But 0.1% that even know about it, let alone participate in it. But, you know, and then they wonder why people like you and me came here.
Yeah. I mean, I know why I'm here. It's, as I said publicly, and as I said to friends, it's been an amazing life, a rewarding life. It hasn't been easy, but it's been amazing and rewarding because of the choices that I've made. And
I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
I love my life.
Yeah.
Do I enjoy every moment of it? No, no.
Right.
But it's a great life. It really is.
Is the locale that you're in California now, is the nature that you are in and around, does it give you some semblance of what you used to have in Colorado?
Totally different.
Okay.
When we hang up here, I'm going to get in the car, and Heidi and I are going to the beach.
Okay.
Walk on the sand and look at the waves.
Well, yeah, I know about that part. Do you get up into the hills at all? Do you choose to go to the hills?
Not.
It doesn't
not
compare.
So much.
Doesn't compare with the mountains of Colorado, of course.
Yeah, the hills here are there's some very wild parts of Colorado. We had a bear come into town about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is fairly remote here.
Okay.
But, the hills are beautiful, but we haven't spent much time up there. We have so much going on here. And quite frankly, I'm still enamored with the ocean and all that has to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm heading back to New England for the first time this summer in many years. I've made the trip every year at Christmas time to go join family and friends and drive mom down to Florida and all that. But I'm going to get to experience New England during the summer and the beaches, and as the Maine folks would say, lobster and beer and the Red Sox. So I'll get to see the beautiful physicality of the New England coastline during the summer, and I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see how now living in California, you'd want to embrace the energy of the Pacific and the coastline and the beach and the waves and the surf and the fog and all the smells that are unique to the beach.
Yeah. Love the fog. Just love it. It comes in every morning, burns off by about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. But,
so is this physicality that you have part of something that you're recommending to people within the context of Cosmic Paradigm, within the context of the book, in terms of one of the ways that they can begin to clear themselves and get centered, get out into nature?
That's one of the ways. Yeah. And have, take care of your body. Just take care of your body. Take care, drugs and alcohol and all the stuff we do to our bodies, we're just poisoning it. So I'm not saying I eat everything, but in moderation.
Right.
And exercise. I'm not a marathon runner, but I exercise and I really enjoy it. And my body really, really needs that. And so, yes, it's important to go and take care of our bodies. And then live as long as you want to live. It's a lifestyle thing. We go and spend so much money keeping people alive because they're afraid to get on with it. They're afraid that there's nothing else. And it's so sad when you meet somebody that, well, that's all. This is the end. No, this is not the end. This is the beginning of something even more wonderful or equally wonderful. Yeah. And so, to take care of the body, it's a wonderful vehicle. And again, appreciate it. Less than 0.1% of the people know about it. And even less than that would want to have a physical experience. So it's very unique. So take care of it.
Yeah.
It's very unique. Lots of people wanted to come here just to experience physical. They didn't stick around very long. But,
I mean, to come to planet Earth and have the quick learning experience of life and physicality. Because it's my understanding from my own people that our lifespans, our physical lifespans on this planet are very short. But yet there's so much going on this planet. It's so dynamic that we can learn a lot in a relatively short time.
yes.
At least on a per lifetime basis.
Yeah, we learn a lot. We do in a short time. Yeah. And, it's important to go and understand why we're here. And then the learning makes sense. If you think all you're doing is being born, growing up, making money and having a family and dying, well, you're not getting the full life experience, I have to tell you. And there are so many people caught in that trap nowadays, particularly in the developed countries. They think that's all there is. I think the indigenous people do a whole lot better. They really do. They have a good grasp of a lot of this. But no, there's more to life than simply being born and then dying. There's a lot more to it. And quite frankly, I would love to have some more company because I think we can make a big change. So anybody that wants to volunteer, get a hold of me. The email is on there, on the website. I'd love to hear from you. We can talk by phone. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just as a curiosity,
let me think. One other thing.
Sure.
That I just thought of that I should talk about, and that is that if people want to be connected, okay, they would like to have a conversation with one of the extraterrestrials, I can work that out. I can make that connection, and I'm happy to do that. I have a number of people that like to do that. They have specific questions about their lives. They want to be connected to a higher power and give them some insight. We can do that. Get in touch.
So if people head over to Cosmic Paradigm, Paradigm, cosmicparadigm.com, they'll see an email address for you and they can reach out to you that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll see it there.
All right. Hey, I wanted to take a little bit of a different path regarding a topic that I saw addressed in sort of the biop of this new book, where you're speaking of the elevation of life, not only Gaia, Terra, this beautiful planet, to the higher dimensions, but of the people on this planet, to elevating to what you're calling Christ consciousness?
Yes.
Am I saying that correctly? Okay. Can you please describe for people using non-religious concepts what that means?
We talked about the schematic that Source put in place. The original schematic, that this is the way I want this universe to be. This is my schematic. It's a living, breathing. It's not a something. A blueprint is on a piece of paper. This is a living schematic. Another word for that schematic is Christ energy.
Okay.
That's the bigger picture of Christ energy. And yes, it was brought to this planet, and it took hold to a certain extent, not to the extent that it was all wished to happen. But it is known in Andromeda and Pleiades and Sirians and Arcturians and all of those other planets that hide the higher consciousness. They know about the schematic. They live according to the schematic, and they call it Christ consciousness. It's that easy. And this is one of the things I learned just recently. Excuse me. That, I kept asking, so what is Christ consciousness? And they said, it's real simple. It's the schematic. And it's been abused by the religion so much.
Yeah.
Twisted and turned and all that kind of stuff. But it's schematic. No big deal.
So kind of,
and it's known all over the universe. Okay, that's like, what.
Would it be accurate to say that it's an energetic pathway to get closer to source? Would those be accurate words?
I would use it as an energetic formula for life.
Okay.
Energetic formula for life. This is the way that 99.9% of the universe lives, according to the schematic. They live according to this energetic formula, which includes light, love, unity.
Let me guess.
Unconditional love.
Right. Okay. Compassion, understanding, patience.
All that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Those elements of life that say, even if I don't understand what the person is going through, I'm going to have enough compassion to inquire, to ask, to help, to be of service as much as I can. And that's maybe one way of expressing it.
That's a good way, yes.
Yeah.
I at least will accept them for who they are and won't judge them.
Right.
No judgment. No judgment allowed. If, the other people, they don't judge us, the people from off planet. If that's the way you guys here on this planet want to be, well, okay, go ahead. Go for it. We have a better way of living, and we'd be happy to go and share that with you, which they do. They share it with you. They share it with me. They share it with a lot of people. There's a lot of light workers out there that are getting this message about a higher way to live. Yeah. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine.
It's okay. Yeah. And that truly is the concept of allowing people the free will to evolve however they are going to.
Yeah.
Or not evolve.
Yeah. It's the law of allowance, okay?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, the law of allowance. So yeah, Christ consciousness is that schematic. I thought it was something much more complicated than that, but it's a living formula. So this is how you live your life. Unconditional love, perfect unity. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I've had the opportunity to experience a couple of times these higher dimensions. And I have to tell you, you go and you experience that, and you don't want to leave. Oh, no way. You don't want to come back here.
Yes,
it's like being enfolded in a warm room of caring and love. And
yes. Yeah, every time I have to come back down to planet Earth, they're like, yeah, you got to go back. I'm like, oh, do I really have to? Like, yeah, you got a job to do. And besides, you're not done with your life down there yet. I'm like, all right.
Remember that promise you made? Yeah,
right.
All right. That agreement you made?
Right. Yeah, and I went kicking and screaming, but I went. It was
in the fine print of that agreement.
Yeah, that's right. A little boilerplate in the bottom. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, we won't speak about higher dimensional attorneys and boilerplate. But I did just to reflect for a moment on this concept of Christ consciousness. It is nice and it's refreshing to know that this energetic schematic of way of living is as simple as you mentioned. It's certainly not all of the institutionalized dogma that the different churches have been preaching for years at all.
Isn't that refreshing?
It is.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
It really is.
It's so simple. It's so simple. It's some of the really great things in life are simple.
Yes.
Like going and walking on the beach. It's so simple.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or walking up in the forest. It's so simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mid and northern California coasts have some beautiful, incredible forests, sequoias and redwoods. There's ferns that are as tall as people. It's stunning.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. So before you and Heidi go walking on the beach this afternoon, Is there anything else relevant to your new book, Cosmic Paradigm, that you'd like to share with people before we head off this afternoon?
It's now available on Kindle. This just happened a couple of days ago. But it's available on Kindle if people like to get it that way. And it's available at Amazon, selling pretty good at Amazon.
Good.
And if you want an autographed copy, then you send me you go to a website and you can buy it on the website, and I will give you an autograph. No charge.
Oh, that's nice of you. That's a good thing. Yeah.
So it's available, and we would love to go and send out some. It's selling pretty well. I'm pleased. It's doing better than some of the earlier books. So I guess it's catching on.
Ah, good.
People like to go and find out all of my secrets, I guess.
Yeah. Well, then don't tell them all.
No, there's plenty more in the book.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sure that having read your other books, this one will be equally as rewarding and revelatory in terms of some of the ideas that were talked about in terms of how to live a better life and maybe live a life that's more in concert and in synchronicity with the planet.
And I will get a book out to you as soon as I get the next shipment.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah.
That's very, very kind.
No, we'll get it off to you. Yeah. And then we'll keep in touch. And the next time I get to Arizona, that I've got a free day or two, we'll get together up in Sedona.
Sounds good. Would love to have you up here.
What day of the month do you typically get together?
Our Sedona Close Encounter meetings happen typically on the third or fourth Friday of every month.
Okay.
And for people who want to learn about them, I have a good size, if you will, poster that's posted on the homepage of the Andromeda Council website.
Okay.
Yep. So people can look there as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we have a fresh new speaker every month, and I try to keep a nice rhythm going where last month's speaker is absolutely different than this month's or the next month's. So it keeps it interesting for the people that are coming to attend. It's like you had in Pagosa Springs. It's a nice group of people. We really enjoy each other's company. I
know some of them.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
I know some of them.
Yeah, and they've asked for you a few times. Yeah.
Good. Well, tell them I said hello.
I will do that.
One last word I would say is that
please
visit cosmicparadigm.com. And I am posting now on a more regular basis. I'm getting communications from Andromeda and other information that people will find interesting.
Okay. So for Mark Kimmel of the Cosmic Paradigm and Tolec for the Andromeda Council, thank you for listening and for joining us. And I wish all of you very happy, very healthful and fulfilling lives. Mark, final thoughts?
Blessings to everybody. Be aware of who you are and live your life that way. Love to everybody.
Wow. Thanks so much. All right. Have a great Sunday afternoon.
Bye for now, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this.
All right. My pleasure. Take care.
You too. Bye.